Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I am Anand Narsimhan. We are coming to you live from the CNN News 18 Primetime Studios, presented by Green Lamb Laminates. Now, here on The Right Stand, we begin with some exclusive big news coming through, and it's breaking information, which is a CNN News 18 exclusive. A devious plot by China. A devious plot by China that will perhaps work as a tool to destabilize the entire region and even perhaps turn the regional balance. Here's a CNN News 18 mega exclusive. There's a super dam project that the PLA and the CCP are working on, and this could be weaponized in the interest of the Chinese against the interests of the people of Bharat, and also perhaps wipe out an entire Tibetan civilization or Tibetan grouping in that entire region. Without any guns, no artillery, but perhaps the single biggest investment on a quote-unquote development project, a $137 billion project, the Super Dam project, that is supposed to generate electricity and harness this resource that is water, but that could unleash mayhem, floods, or even drought, and totally thwart a huge portion of Bharat and also impact Bangladesh. The mega China dam is perhaps stated to end Tibet's issues and perhaps somewhere by displacing them totally. There have been protests in Tibet, and they started last year. Hundreds of Tibetan protesters were taken into long-term custody after very rare protests around this super dam. The displacement of communities from the region, is it perhaps the PLA's biggest plan, because they have then sanitized this entire area once and forever and permanently taken it under PLA control. But more importantly, there's more. The new game plan to control downstream. The new game plan to control downstream rivers flowing into nations like Bharat and Bangladesh. Now, according to intel sources, China has approved the construction of this massive super dam, and that is to generate a capacity of 60,000 megawatts of power on the Yarlung Sangpo. Overall, they want to generate 800 gigawatts by layering and structuring one dam after the other and creating this giant super dam. But this project, this Yarlung Sang on the Yarlung Sangpo, now this dam is planned along the entry point into Bharat at Tuting in the upper Siang region. Now from the Yarlung Sangpo becomes the Siang river as it enters into Arunachal Pradesh, and then as it turns towards Assam, it becomes the Luit or the Brahmaputra. Now, according to sources, the construction is happening on the left bank of the Yarlung Sangpo river, which flows into the Siang river in Arunachal, and thereafter the Brahmaputra and Assam. All these activities are near the Tibet region, very close to Arunachal Pradesh. In fact, we have word that the first ITBP post is just 5.5 kilometers downstream from this project. And that dam there will wipe out the entire Tibetan population in that region. This is very close to the Indian border post, which is just 5 kilometers away from Jelling in Upper Siang, 5.75 kilometers from Jelling village, the last circle headquarters in Tuting under the Upper Siang district, 1.62 kilometers from the McMahon line, 35 kilometers from the Medok town in the Ningchi region of Tibet. Now, Ningchi is the region to which there has been a recent high-speed rail connectivity also built by the CCP. And we had Xi Jinping travel all the way up to Ningchi and then head back, and Bharat was watching very, very closely. Now, let's try and understand this map in detail, and we hope viewers who are watching this can see the strategic importance and the impact of this dam. When they dam something in that region, with just 5 kilometers of Bharat's border just downstream, the first village, Jelling region coming in, Professor Brahma Chalani is also with us. Now, we can see how close it is to Bharat. Now, here, this dam does China then have the power, once this dam is constructed, to unleash floods or to stop the flow of water altogether? And what will be the cascading effect on the rivers here in this riverine region into Arunachal Pradesh and then thereafter coming down into Assam? This is something which even the Chief Minister of Arunachal Pradesh, Mr. Pema Khandu, has also voiced, saying that there needs to be more projects in Arunachal to dam and to create water reservoirs and dams within Arunachal, so that if there is a sudden inflow of water from here, from China, all of Arunachal does not face devastation, nor does Assam. And now he said this just 2 or 3 days back. We've been trying to connect with him and to get him on the phone to get his reaction on this story that we're putting out. But Professor Brahmachalani, your thoughts? Andrew K.P. Leung, China strategist, should also be joining us. Oh, there he is. Good evening, gentlemen. Yes, Professor Brahmachalani.
I think this super dam project carries major geopolitical and environmental implications. This project should not have been instituted without consultations with neighboring countries like India and Bangladesh. The whole project has been shrouded in secrecy from the very beginning. Few details have been released by China till date. For example, the recent reports in the Chinese state media that this project has been, quote unquote, approved, actually obscures the real thing. The approval was granted by China's rubber stamp parliament in March 2021, and subsequent to that, the Chinese government included the super dam project in its new 5-year plan, which it released in 2021. So the recent media reports in China that this project has been approved seem to indicate that this project actually is well underway, because that's been the pattern with other projects that China has undertaken on transnational rivers. For example, on the Mekong River, they have built 11 giant dams. Of course, certainly not anywhere close to the size of the super dam project that they are building on the border with India. But these giant dams, 11 of them were constructed, each of them in complete secrecy. Even though the downstream countries like Thailand, Laos, Cambodia are friends of China, and yet they kept each project under wraps until they could present the project as a fait accompli to the downstream countries. So similarly, all the secrecy about this super dam project is designed to present this project as a fait accompli to India. This is very unfortunate because on one hand, we have seen efforts on the part of India and China to improve relations, to reduce geopolitical tensions. At the same time, we have seen provocative actions subsequent to these conciliatory moves. We had, in the case of Ladakh, that the Chinese government declared 2 new counties in and then so-called approval of the which really, as I said, the project is well underway.
Yes, it is concerning. China is also termed the most dammed nation. When I say DAM, that's the number of dams that they have built. They runs up to about 80,000 plus dams. Some reports that had suggested, our research team had suggested earlier in the day. But Andrew K.P. Leung, there are concerns. This has been raised, and the other aspect is it true that China has not shared hydrological data with Bharat on this super dam project, and also the Yarlung Sangpo, how much of water and how much of a hydrological impact it will have on the Siang River and the Brahmaputra?
Well, obviously, a dam of this size and magnitude has been under planning for quite some time. And as you pointed out, I mean, it was approved a number of years ago. And I think that the neighboring countries are aware of it, or should be aware of it, because it's a huge project. All I can say, of course, dams of this nature whether within one's own country or bordering the tributaries in other countries, would have an immense impact on not only the water flows, but on the ecosystems in the whole region. So I would say that it would be legitimate for countries affected to intensify this kind of negotiations or talks with China to make sure that any impact is being addressed, and in fact to jointly manage the project, because the project, of course, serves a great deal of purposes for China in terms of renewable energy and to harness this huge resource. But as I said, I mean, a project of this size must have impact with the neighboring countries. And I think it would be legitimate for India and other countries to really talk to the Chinese authorities to manage any kind of adverse impact. I don't think that Beijing could resist, sort of requests for these kind of talks.
But so far, Mr. Andrew, the fact is that the Chinese authorities have not been very forthcoming with the hydrological data. The other aspect is that the Yarlung Sangpo and this project itself is being built on a very seismologically questionable region where it is going to be quake prone. One of its other big dam projects has also come under scrutiny, did not get approvals, and had been raised by environmentalists an aspect that it is on a highly seismological zone. Two dams, if they break, crack, then it could flood the entire region, not just the entire Tibetan plain, but also have impact on Nepal, on Bharat, and that entire region. That's what many experts had claimed. Professor Brahmachalani, will the CCP actually share data and information if you were to ask them? What do you think will be Bharat's position? Because I have seen Pema Khandu, the Arunachal CM, he has come out and said that we need to have our own Siang Upper region projects, and we need to build our own steady 4-5 dams along the Siang River, and also saying that unless we build these dams, we will not be able to save ourselves from floods, not just Arunachal, but also Assam. He said, don't hear, because there is resistance among environmentalists and people in Arunachal too with dam projects or scheduled dam projects in Arunachal. And he said that unless we do this, we are going to be vulnerable. So clearly Bharat knows it's a threat.
India is vulnerable irrespective of whatever India does. Whatever India does is not going to seriously mitigate the effects of the Chinese super dam. We should be clear about that. There's a number of reasons why whatever actions India might undertake will not be adequate, because the super dam is going to have a cascading effect on the environment, on the ecology, is going to damage Tibet's fragile ecosystems. And then there are these geopolitical implications, which are very obvious, because they're building the dam right on the border with India. It's a very heavily militarized border with India, and right on the border, they're building this super dam. Its reservoir is going to extend for hundreds of kilometers, actually. The way the Three Gorges Dam reservoir extends, for hundreds of kilometers. So, doing this project right on the border with India clearly has serious implications for India. It allows China to control the flow of this river. This river is known by different names, as we all know: Yarlung Sangpo, Siang, Brahmaputra. These are all the names of one river. But when you damage a river system by creating this super dam, it will have a cascading effect all the way down to Bangladesh. And the unfortunate part of this is that there's complete lack of trust. The Indian government has sought for several years now information from the Chinese government. They have raised this issue in bilateral talks, but the Chinese government has not been forthcoming. They have provided very little. In fact, the whole approach is one centered on unilateralism. that is contrary to good neighborly behavior. How can you have a project that has serious, ominous transnational implications on a completely unilateral basis? So I think it's important for the Indian government to raise its voice. Unless you don't name and shame China, how else are you going to
No,
exert pressure on China?
there is another way.
Unfortunately, the Indian
Another
government
way
has
is
been
that we
doing that.
renege on the. We start building our dams on the Indus, and try and. But there again, what happens is because of the CCP control on the palm, and the fountainhead of all these river sources, be it the Indus, the Yalung Sangpo, the Mekong, all of these, they originate from Tibet. And this dam here will wipe out that entire Tibetan population there. It will displace them altogether. They have no other option. A lot of them have been sent into long-term custody. Others will be forced to move out of this region. And there is a reason why they want that area clear of that. That's what other experts believe. There is a reason why they want that area clear of Tibetan population because of the connect with Tawang, the connect, the Buddhist connection there, and of course there is a message being sent. So there are many stones which will be, many birds which will be perhaps impacted or hit with one super dam project that costs $137 billion. We got news from the Intel perspective, from what the Indian intelligence sources are saying. Let's just put that out, the concerns that are being raised. One is that this entire bid to weaponize water. Now, there is one way of looking at it. From the Chinese perspective, they say they want to enable this water to generate renewable energy to meet China's needs. But they could also weaponize this water because this could be unleashed and set out to unleash a huge amount or wreak havoc on Indian soil. Top sources are telling CNN News 18 there are satellite images that show huge construction near the left bank of the Yarlung Sangpo. There is clear visibility of very heavy machinery and army camp-like formations. Construction will create major imbalance and ultimately damage will be caused to the regional balance, economic stability and security. Construction will be dangerous and will impact geology badly because drilling will impact tectonic plates and that could cause huge earthquakes, and it's all going to come flowing down, and the direct impact will be on Arunachal, Assam and then Bangladesh. Dam construction is a strategic project of China, and the Chinese will have a clear advantage to store, divert the flow of the river systems, and this will serve as a tool where both nations like Bharat and Bangladesh will be suffering in the times of standoffs like the recent one in Galwan and in Doklam. China is known for bypassing agreements and they have stopped sharing data after Doklam, which is part of an agreement. China's purpose may be to divert the water from multiple water reservoirs under this project and perhaps dry this entire region of Tibet. So the water table itself is moved, river systems are altered, and it will have a cascading and devastating effect on Arunachal and on Assam. Now, in case China does this, rivers coming into Bharat, which is called Siang, will also lose its water flow. It will impact Assam, it will impact Bangladesh, of course impacting Arunachal. And by building dams in the Tibetan plateau, China will gain significant upstream leverage over multiple neighboring nations into which these rivers flow. Bharat has expressed concern already that China might redirect additional water from transboundary rivers to its northern regions to meet water demands of China's coal and grain production centers. And top government sources further telling your channel this matter is already in the knowledge of the government. The government is trying to take countermeasures to meet long-term requirements. Special representative level talks are also on to discuss various issues, and matter will be taken forward. Some projects have also been announced, like the Upper Siang in Arunachal Pradesh, in the light of developments in areas on the other side, that's on the Tibetan side, by the Chinese and the PLA to tackle this, but they are also being met with local resistance. Andrew KP Leung, can China be trusted to be honest in its use or judicious in its use of this entire super dam project? And this is quite ambitious, $137 billion project. It's quite a behemoth that the Chinese themselves are undertaking.
Well, this is the world, perhaps the world's largest hydroelectric project. And as I said, the importance of this project and the impact on not only water flows but on the ecology in the region is sufficient to elevate the talks to the highest level. And I would suggest that in view of the recent contact between the two leaders, this is a good subject for this to be raised at the highest level, so as to manage any adverse impact on China's neighbors. And not only India, as you mentioned, there are other countries affected.
Yeah.
And it could also be a subject of a regional conference on this project. And that would lay out all the kind of impact, not only on India, not only on the displacement of people, but on the ecology, on the balance, because it affects livelihood of a lot of people. So I think that the matter should be taken up not only between the two leaders, but could well be the subject, a good subject for a kind of regional conference on this, because at the end of the day, it's a natural resource. Obviously, any countries which has the upstream, as in any other country, would have an advantage. But on the other hand, because of the impact on the whole region, I think it's worthwhile to really raise this in a kind of international context, in a regional conference, perhaps.
Yes, it is, and they're quite aggressive in the way they are constructing it, and the way this whole project is carrying on. And it will have now some of those representations itself show the volumes of water. The Three Gorges Dam, if that was a behemoth, and that reservoir spreads hundreds of kilometers, this will be only twice or thrice the size of the Three Gorges Dam. And these are both in ecologically sensitive areas. One shift here or there because of the pressure that the water will build on the tectonic plates on the surface itself, this is large-scale devastation. And who will be responsible for it? That's the larger question. Thank you, gentlemen. We've got more news coming through. Professor Brahmachalani, stay on with us, please. Andrew K. Leong, thank you for your thoughts.